of the Nigerian energy sector, its current challenges, the critical reforms that are needed to pave the way for genuine economic development. Enough said. Let's bring on board our guest for the Situation Room today. Remember, we're talking about the energy sector and all of the many obstacles that have prevented us from really harnessing the gift that our energy sector is supposed to give to us. I do have joining me virtually, that's via the phone, Emmanuel Udofia, PhD FNSC, best-selling author, the digital leader, and also an energy expert. Mr. Udofia is an author, he's a speaker, he's a course facilitator, he's an industry advisor, he's a petroleum engineering consultant, also a best-selling author of the book, The Digital Leader, Demystifying Leadership in the Era of Digital Transformation, and the MD, Sᴜness Energy Solution Company. You can understand how extensive his portfolio is and why he's the best man for this conversation this evening. Mr. Udofia, a pleasure to have you. Thank you for being patient. Good evening to you, sir.
Good evening, Sage.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. Well, I guess we can just get straight into the conversation. The energy sector. Let's talk about the current state of our energy sector. And by energy, I'm talking both our electricity sector and also our oil sector. We've come a long way, and unfortunately we've been on the wrong trajectory. The quality of life that is afforded to people in terms of power is evident that we're on the wrong path. Talk to us about what it was like discovering oil, what it was like hoping that our energy resources would benefit us in the long run, and how we have fallen further down into the rabbit hole with the poor quality of service that we're seeing in that sector currently.
All right. Thank you, Sage, for having me, and it's nice to be here. Of course, we'll talk about the energy sector. This is a very broad topic, very broad. Like you mentioned, over the oil and gas. To a large extent, I would have loved to focus more on the oil and gas. But basically, we know how key electricity is. And what changed the game in electricity was 2023, when Buhari signed the Electricity Act, which sort of that makes legislation for transmission and distribution to state, which means that
Mr. Udofia, we can barely hear you. There's an interruption.
Oh, interruption from my end?
Oh, yes.
Is it clear now?
Okay, it's better. Thank you.
Okay. Like I said, it's good. I'm very happy being here. Thanks for having me. We'll be looking at the energy sector, like you mentioned. But it's a very broad topic.
Yeah, sir, we heard you to the point where you spoke about the Electricity Act. That was where we started struggling.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. The Electricity Act of 2023, signed by Buhari, that was in March. It remains a game changer in the electricity industry in Nigeria, because it ceded a lot of powers to the state in terms of the amendment of the Constitution, which simply means that as we speak, states can generate, transmit, and regulate that area in individual states. So that means that there's a lot of diversification, and that ensures that liberalization is there in that industry. But do we have that capacity? That's the different question that people need to ask. And that needs to be able to bring in the players. Because even at that, you could see we still have some of the challenges, but I believe those are teaching issues that over time we will be able to deal with. But the big elephant in the room, like I mentioned, which I would like to focus more, is on the oil and gas. But generally speaking, when you look at projections, the population of Nigeria should be the third largest in the world in 2050. Currently, we're about the 7th, which simply means that energy demand will increase significantly in the next couple of years. And one of the key components to drive that remains the oil and gas. Why am I focusing on that? As we speak, 40% of Nigerian GDP comes from the oil and gas. 75% of our current 2025 budget, revenue-wise, come from the oil and gas. 95% of our foreign earning is from the oil and gas. So you could see that that's for us, it's like our life, that's just our life, basically. Now, when you look at the challenges that we have, they are in different forms. You just mentioned about the refinery. That's a different issue entirely. They will tell you that Port Harcourt is refining, Warri is refining, and they are still importing. It's a mixed bag, sort of. But the hope or the silver lining on the line is that local players are coming in. There are a lot of oil fields being diversified, meaning that local Nigerian operators now can deal with the land operations less risky. So that capacity is still building. So I still believe that.
Let's have a conversation about the amount of money that the Nigerian people have been asked to pay so that they can access this commodity very conveniently. Even for oil and gas, that aspect that you like to focus on, we do realize that subsidy was said to have been removed, and people went from paying 200 naira to a litre to over 1,000 naira per litre, depending on what part of the country you're living. For electricity, Nigerians went from paying 68 naira per kilowatt hour to over 200 naira per kilowatt hour, also depending on the band that you're on. And even all of this, they tell us that in about 11 years, from 2015 to 2025, that subsidy of at least 7.2 trillion naira has been paid. Nigerians are asked to pay more so that we can enjoy quality of service that is befitting. But for some reason, the more we pay, the less service or the less commodity we have access to, especially for power. The more we pay, the more controversy that shrouds that particular sector. What is going on with the finances and the funding of this sector? Where are the money is going to, and who are the right people to ask questions when it comes to accountability of the huge amount of taxpayers' monies that is pumped?
Everybody. But the truth is that legislation or government cannot even solve it. It must be efficiency driven through competition. Just look at the PMS price that we've been seeing that have been fluctuating. When I look at that, I believe that we're in the right track. When we talk about subsidy, of course, subsidy, taking it out, that's the right way. That I believe the man on the street was poorly engaged. People don't know why it was done. Some might feel that government just wants to inflict pain on them. That engagement, that's a missing gap that would have been done, efficiently. Should subsidy be taken out? Of course, that's the right thing to do. Are we paying a fair price? That's a different conversation. Because how do you define a fair price? In one of the media chat, President Tinubu said that he doesn't support price control. And I'm totally in alignment with him. Allow the market forces to play out. Let's go in the area of the PMS that you just mentioned. What should happen basically there? It's just that there are a lot of controversies. I will put it at that. In the last couple of months, we suddenly had that Port Harcourt Warri refinery is working. These are refineries that have not been working for decades. And from where I see, what made that refinery to start working in quotes, is because of the Dangote's refinery that is on. And that's one of the effects when you have market-driven effects or sort of competition. From studies about the last quarters, because I like talking about data, I'm an engineer, about 3.8 billion liters of and just last month, January, about 212 million liters being imported by NMPC. So the question is, why are you importing if you have your refineries working? But what will help us in this space will be when you start having other competitors playing out. It's generally role for the regulator. The regulator has a very significant to be able to ask some of the questions that you just asked and more other questions that you want answers, and provide a guide. What do we call a guide? There are indices or elements that fits into what had allowed industry players to deal with that, because that would be like a guide, like I mentioned, and not to actually set the price. So that would to a large extent answer some of those questions that we are asking. Are they really getting a fair price? Nobody can give you that price that now, but the market forces will tell us. So that's the way I think.
Let's talk about the controversy of quality, since we're talking about the importation of petroleum products, even after we were told that the Port Harcourt and Warri refineries are already functional. So there's a lot of questions about why we still need to import. Don't forget, before we even talk about quality of product, as you know, there's been the involvement of the law. Dangote had written to the law to ask questions about why the NMDPRA, for example, continues to grant licenses to importers, because a section of the PIA actually states that if we're able to domestically cater to our needs, there's absolutely no need why we should import. In fact, importation should only happen when we have a shortfall. But Dangote claims that he has enough liters in stock to cater to our daily consumption for at least a month or so. But still, the NMDPRA continues to grant licenses arbitrarily to importers to bring in the commodity, our only point of supply. Then you could put the commodity into the country even after a local refiner tells us that he's capable of taking care of our needs. And who exactly within the value chain stands to gain the most? The continued importation of the commodity.
When we talk about importation, there are two questions that are not being asked there. Quality.
Okay.
So because that will definitely impact on the price. And in the oil and gas industry, sulfur content determines a lot. And we are in this country when Dangote, they didn't do that for the Port Harcourt refinery. They didn't do that for the Warri refinery. And the issue of monopoly, Dangote is not the only refinery in Nigeria today. We have other refineries like the Port Harcourt, the Warri, and all that. So the issue of the monopoly, I think market forces will address most of this. But what will make them, because what the average Nigerian will see in the face value, or what will make them to go from one station or the other, is because of the price. They know the ppm, parts per million of sulfur. Then what might come in might be higher than that, because the higher sulfur content, the lower quality, and invariably the lesser the price. Even the crude oil that you tend to buy, the blends have less sulfur, so it's more expensive than the Western Texas Intermediate, which has higher sulfur. But these are components that the average man on the street doesn't see. And maybe it's the cars that they use that will have the impact. And that is where the regulators will come in. Like I said, the regulator would have made the statement they made about Dangote to the other refineries and even the product that is being imported. Do they have that capacity? Do they have the lab? That's a different conversation. So there are a lot of things that need to, they need to be unraveled by the regulator, because they just know they are called regulators because they are supposed to set those standards. So it's a struggle. But in a nutshell, I think that's what it is.
I want to get your personal opinion on the conversation that really puts in our faces, tested the longevity of the two products. Dangote refinery from Dangote burned slower. It burned for 30 minutes, while the one from NNPCL burned for just 17 minutes. And the NNPCL put out a statement that this is very misleading. They still get the bulk of their PMS from Dangote refinery. So the PMS he claims to have gotten from the NNPCL that burned slower, they actually got from Dangote refinery. Again, the question, if you're claiming that we have two refineries that are working, and you, as at 2024, at least 1.5 million liters of PMS that you imported into the country, why then are you still telling us that you are off-taking most of your PMS from Dangote refinery? Where is the stock that you have gotten from the two refineries you tell us are currently working, and even the ones that you have imported into the country? Where is it, and why are you still buying from Dangote, as put out in the statement that was released, to prove that the quality of PMS from the NNPCL is just as good as that from Dangote?
That's from NNPC. It's a struggle for a lot of people, because when you talk about the quality, some of their products go in. That means that the question of quality doesn't come in, because for you to be able to do that means that they sell to Saudi Arabia, they sell to the UK and all the rest. And those are the part of the world where you can say they have to. But when you come on the part of the NNPC or the government, it's a struggle. Because as we speak, there are a lot of reports that says that what you get from the NNPC refinery, Warri, Port Harcourt, is basically AGO, NAFTA, and not really PMS. It can be imported. Last month they imported about 212 million liters. But like I mentioned, what we really check all this is that when we have more players coming in, and the awareness, when you start having this level of conversation, like what your station is doing, let people be conscious and be aware. The influence that we did what we did, fine. That only raised the Nigerian consciousness to start asking questions. Because like I said that people don't look at, I don't even care about the quality. They are more looking at the price. But what that influencer simply did was to raise that conversation, that consciousness, that we need to start looking at the quality. And from every standpoint, if there's one industry or that have international lab to make this test, is Dangote. Even the regulator, I struggle whether they have a lab. So if you don't have a lab, how do you check what they are supposed to check? So it's simple. It depends on what they want to achieve. But like I said, and I'll keep mentioning that, the game changer will be because competition drives efficiency. Competition drives efficiency. Go ahead.
If you're just joining the conversation, this is the Situation Room on Mainland 98.3 FM. The conversation today is about the inefficiency of the Nigerian energy sector. It's become the bane of economic development in the nation, and you would understand why anything that goes wrong within the oil sector sends shock through the rest of the sectors that we have in the country, because as our guest said earlier, the bulk of our revenue is somewhat tied to our revenue from petroleum, or happens within the petroleum industry. The energy sector, let's call it that, has a very heavy influence on our revenue as a country. I'm here talking to Emmanuel Udofia, PhD, FNSC, best-selling author, the digital leader. He's also an energy expert. He's an author, he's a speaker, he's a course facilitator, he's an industry advisor and a petroleum engineering consultant. He's a best-selling author of the book The Digital Leader, Demystifying Leadership in the Era of Digital Transformation. He's also the MD at Sonisys Energy Solution Company. And so we're talking oil and gas, we're talking electricity, all the problems within these sectors, and ultimately we'll talk about how to resolve the problem. Let's segue a little bit into electricity, because that is the most recent shock that has hit the Nigerian people at this time, especially with the Guardian reporting the amount of money this goes and the Gencos, and why people are the ones who have to cater for themselves when it comes to electricity. There's also the conversation around estimated billing. I know that the federal government had spoken about some federal government initiative that would provide free meters for the people, but we have programs on here where people call and tell us that they had to buy their meter themselves. In fact, some of them had to do backdoor arrangement just to get the meters faster. They pay as much as 200,000 naira to get a meter if they're lucky. And for those who don't have the luxury of a meter yet, who are on estimated billing, sometimes they don't have power for weeks on end, and then they bring the bill and they're seeing a bill of over 150,000 naira for 3 days of power. Individuals that are taking this exorbitant bills. Two, how do we bridge the metering gap, sir? And also, how do we ensure efficiency within our power sector? Are we at a point where we might need to jettison this band system and just let people pay for the power that they use?
One of the missing gap when we talk about efficiency is very poor investment. When there was during the energy or the electricity industry, the idea was for investors to invest some money, and that did not happen. You just mentioned talking about somebody going to input buy meter, because by law you don't own that meter. It still remains.
Yes.
So how can you go meter? Let the investors make that investment, and that is where the government needs to come in. Maybe that's why the government is trying to create a stopgap by saying that they will distribute free meter. So there should be a massive investment. Without investment, you can't get to a level where you can have that sustainability. You were talking about a situation where you have national grid collapse. I mean, what do we call that? It seems that there's something that is not right about the process. And that has to do with the right investment. So until when we get there, for me, that is just a simple fact. If we don't get to a level where things are done properly, then it's a big struggle. Even in the oil and gas, which I was even talking about, what is happening is that with the divestment, the local players are still bringing some money to do some investment. Without the right investment, you can't get that optimized value that you are looking for. Because, we're talking about even the regulators, the Gencos and all the rest. How many people actually even pay for the power? There are persons who believe that they shouldn't pay for electricity. But if everybody is metered, that will handle that area. And it ties back to the issue of the investment. Are we ready to do the investment? Those are the level of conversation. And the government, I believe, they know that. And that's why they started by saying, okay, we are going to give free meter. If you don't meter somebody, how are you going to get your revenue? It's a challenge. When you talk about metering is a common issue that tend to be more man-made pronounced in the electricity industry. You still have that challenge even in the oil and gas. though the regulator have taken some steps to do some integrity tests on most of the lab units. So I believe there's a direction in that. But I mean, the first step for let's try and get the metering system fixed. Everybody should be metered. Everybody should be metered. So if you don't meter, I mean, maybe that's why the investors are developing that cool fix. That when I put this money, can I get it back? I think that should be the first step.
Sir, in the report that The Guardian put out, 7.2 trillion in 11 years, the electricity sector is largely privatized, the GENCOs and the DISCOs. So what part of the value chain exactly are we subsidizing? It's confusing to the average Nigerian. If you say it's privatized, it means that the individuals who have bought this over from you, or I don't know if it's a concession arrangement, it means that they invest their own money. The only part of the electricity value chain that is handled by the federal government is the TCN, and they have their problems. Sometimes generated energy is sent to them, they say it's too much, they don't have the capacity to transmit it, and they have to downsize and what have you. They have their problems. But do you believe the federal government, if they tell us that, well, the subsidies that we've been paying on electricity has been mostly to the TCN, is it possible to spend that amount of money on just the TCN? And if, peradventure, they have been subsidizing for the DISCOs and the GENCOs, what exactly was the point of privatization?
For me, there are three elements that I normally look at when I look at things of this nature.
Mm-hmm.
One is affordability, accessibility, adaptability. What do I mean by affordability? Can I pay for the energy or that I'm looking for? What could help us do that is the metering, which you mentioned. 2, can I get the power when I need? I can tell you that what a lot of Nigerians have gone through, they are ready to pay, but they want a fair price. Come to a point where the level of failure is what you could say is acceptable. We are not there. And one of the issues you just mentioned about the investors, I feel their challenge is that if they invest X, are they going to get it back? And the only way that they can get it back is if they could be, metered. I just mentioned to you that if you go to a lot of people, they still believe that, in fact, there are a lot of people who will now even like the prepaid meter because they just feel that it's too much. Energy is expensive anywhere in the world. So the first step when we talk about in the electricity industry is to be able to meter. And I believe with technology we can do more.
All right. Let's have a conversation about the influence that our poor energy sector or our ailing energy sector has had on businesses, both big and small. At least 10 companies have exited the country. I'm talking multinationals now. They've left the country. A cost that they pass on to the consumer. I need you to give us an insight into the reality of the market, or at least link it to the cost of commodity. What is going on within the power sector that is afforded to the Nigerian people? And in order to take care of this problem, what are the steps that we need to begin to take? What model do we need to employ to rectify the ills within the power sector and by ripple effect fix what is going on with our economy? We have inflation figures that it was around 38%. Well, as you heard this morning, the MBS used a rebasing of the CPI. They made it 24%. That's fine. If they say that's the new figure, we agree with them. But 24 is still a double-digit figure and is scary. And when you talk to businesses, they tell you that the cost of commodity, this is a cost-push inflation that we're going through at this time. And this is because products are available, but the fact that there is no power to manufacture. We're spending too much money manufacturing, and that is why even imported products are cheaper than the ones we're making here. How do we start to rectify this problem within the power sector? And like I said before, by ripple effect, fix the effect it has on the economy so that Nigerians are able to...
Audience might be familiar with the term drill, baby drill.
Donald Trump.
Drill, be beautiful. And why did he say so? He said that the biggest thing, you are talking about model. I mean, models are just basically principles. If it works in space, it will work anywhere. And that's why he says that he's going to start producing oil, which he calls the liquid gold, under his feet, to be able to drive down costs. One of the key elements that comes in, at least in our own in our environment, is transportation, and that still links us back to the energy or the oil and gas industry. So I believe that if we can get to a level where we can deal with that, the cost will rebound. It will rebound. Because whether you like it or not, that is a common factor that influences every. You even mentioned companies existing and all the rest.
Yeah.
It still boils down to that. So I mean, in our environment right now, any serious business has redundancy in terms of so a company like Dangote has its independent power system, and which is what a lot of companies are doing. I'm not talking about the small or the medium ones, but I still believe that I started by referring to the 2023 Energy Act, that ceded a lot of power to the state, which means that now within the state you have all the power to be able to generate, distribute, and do everything you want to do. So you can find out that maybe in Lagos the cost might be cheaper than maybe Ogun State. So that liberalization is very important. It's very important. So until when we start having that, because basically what would the government do? It's just set policies and allow the local players to run with it. So once we get to that level, because without awareness, I mean, people will not have that clarity. You just mentioned about you started by talking about the issue of the subsidy. People feel that subsidy should not be. So let the state deal with it. And even with the state now, I believe with that law was signed, like I said, March 2023, which is barely less than 2 years. So a lot of states are doing more. A lot of states are doing more. Like Abia State, it was reported that they have, more. So, the issue is that let's allow the market forces and liberalization to take place. But the other game changer, like I keep saying, is technology. Renewable, we are not there, but it's steadily taking shape. Because technology will it will be the game changer. Because when you start having costs in terms of bringing efficiency, quick turnaround in making decisions, then that will help.
So, as children, but before I ask that question, please forgive me. We're streaming live on Facebook. I don't know why that escaped my mind. We're streaming this program live on Facebook. Please join our live stream so that you can see everything going on in the studio. You can also start to drop your comments in real time. For those of you who cannot listen directly via the radio, we're live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube as well at Mainland 98.3 FM. Or if you want a direct link, that's facebook.com /mainland 98.3 FM. It takes you straight to our live stream. For YouTube at mainland 98.3 FM in your search bar, takes you to our page, and you can click the red circle on the icon and you're connected to the live stream. You can also listen via Radio Garden at mainland 98.3 FM on Radio Garden, My Radio Tuner app, whatever online radio platform you're using. Just search for mainland 98.3 FM and you can immediately join the conversation. It's still the Situation Room. We're talking the energy sector in the country, the inefficiency paradoxical, a country that is so blessed in numerous sources of energy, and for some reason we're unable to take care of even our own domestic capacity to the point where we start to make a bulk of revenue from exporting our energy. We are exporting, by the way, but there's nothing to show for it. Back to the question I was going to ask, sir. There's this saying, we as kids, a person who doesn't leave his or her father's farm would think that the father's farm is the biggest. And I say this to lead us into the conversation around looking at energy generation in our neighboring countries like South Africa. Energy, a lot of them are starting to tilt away from fossil fuel, hydroelectric power, renewable energy like solar, wind. South Africa, for example, I believe they generate at least 58,000 megawatts. That's how much they do, and at least 80% of their generation is done via coal. We still burn fossil. We still do the whole greenhouse and what have you, right? And even with that, we just recently went up from 3,000 to about 6,000 megawatts, which we are still dwindling, by the way. Why is it so difficult for us to get on board with the trend in power generation? The world is forgetting oil. I mean, until Donald Trump just came on board and started to take us back, but the world was starting to move away, is starting to move away from fossil fuel, especially because of climate change and what have you. Alternatives are being sought: coal, hydroelectric, wind, solar. Nobody cares about oil that much anymore. World to accommodate the possibility of other sources of clean energy, which will in a way break us away from our over dependence on crude oil.
Nigeria is more of a gas province than even the oil. We have over 2 billion standard cubic feet of gas proven. So in our energy transition, domesticated, we shouldn't be tied to what the West is telling us to do, because they have a different objective. You mentioned in South Africa, that population of about 55 million or thereabout, of electricity.
Yeah, 58,000 megawatts.
Yeah, 8,000. Is it up to 8,000?
No, South Africa does 58,000. That's how much power they generate.
Okay. From my own figures, I thought they are doing 45.
No, 58,000 megawatt of electricity.
Then that's what I'm saying, that they are doing what they are supposed to do, and we have a lot of benefit to do. What do we have to do differently? You are supposed to use what we are supposed to. We are supposed to, like we said, this is not an industry that should be government driven. Government just set the regulation, and I believe with taking it back to the state, I believe we should see something different, because now individuals can start even generating their own power. Because the old law was saying that if you do that, you must tie it to a national grid, and that was not encouraging to a lot of people, including the state. Even Tinubu, when he was governor, he wanted to start generating power in Lagos, and it became a challenge. So with that law, this time about, let's say 18 months ago or thereabout, it's where we are supposed to be. Now, going back to the area of the transition we talk about, energy transition is a global trend. Global warming is real. But whatsoever strategy we need to do must be local driven, domesticated. Nigeria is more oil and gas province. We are supposed to use the revenue from the oil and gas to be able to invest in the green energy. What we need from our estimates, we need at least $400 billion. And like I mentioned earlier on, the only place you can get that money from is from the oil and gas industry. I just mentioned that our budget, this current budget, is depending 75% from the oil and gas. Even the current budget is based on 2 million barrels. As we speak, what we produced the last month in January was 1.74 million barrels, including condensate. I think it was 1.54 that we actually produced. So we need to do more in that space, because regardless of any area you want to talk about in terms of the transition, this is where we should be looking at. We need money from the oil and gas to be able to fund that transition. Of course, we need to work towards getting cleaner sources of energy. And with the current roadmap, the strategy is to move from the crude oil to the gas, because gas tends to be more cleaner, and we have a lot of gas. But because of investment, infrastructure, and regulation, that becomes challenging. The PIA was just signed about 2021 or thereabouts. The last one we had was more than 40 or 50 years ago. So it's for us now to see, with the current legislation, what we need to do differently to be able to get to where we are supposed to be. The Paris Agreement, countries like some, so that is not part of it. So if people that are not part of it, why should we be? And we contribute as ourselves and our system. The current strategy that we are using, is it in line with our national interest? Because like I just talked about, energy will still remain the biggest component in driving any economy. And our population is still growing. I started by saying that in the next 2050, we should be the third largest in terms of population globally. And that in itself, what am I talking about? Our energy demand will significantly become high. So getting at that point, I still believe that there are a lot of things that we need to do to be able to get to that threshold. But we have the right strategy that takes us back to what we are doing right now, with getting the state to be able to generate transit, at least regulating it. That is when India can start doing what they want to do. So that's
at 5. Now, oil theft and vandalism, a lot of our the poor supply, so to speak, and the loss of revenue has been attributed to crude oil theft. You know, there's been a lot of conversations about the billions that we've lost as a result of crude oil theft. I'm trying to get definite figures that have been pegged to how much we have lost so far. In fact, we had to do a private security arrangement, the Tantita security arrangement, to protect our pipeline so that we can really get the bulk of our resources, sell it if we're selling, at least have enough for domestic supply. Do you buy into the idea that crude oil theft and vandalism contributes to why we're unable to have access to this commodity, to at least enjoy the benefit? Do you think it's more the corruption within the system, or it is really the crude oil theft and the vandalism that is preventing us from enjoying the benefit that this natural resource is supposed to grant to us?
Okay, July last year, the regulator upstream said that they want to carry out integrity tests on the 187 lakh units across, that's the police stations across Nigeria, because they believe that crude oil theft is a big component in that. But a lot of other elements seem to come under that because of, the they don't lean their process. The process needs to be lean. In the last 3 months or thereabouts, November, our production increased about 3.5%. December against January increased again. As we speak, our current production is one of the highest. Including condensate, I think we are doing about 1.7 million barrels. And the biggest security which the government has been doing. Now that takes us to the area what can be done to make that process more efficient. It cannot be done. So it's for government to keep doing that area better. Because like you mentioned, in fact, when we do some training in hydrocarbon accounting, we have a component that we map, we call it crude oil. We only have that component in Nigeria. No other part of the world that have that component. But that in itself impacts on their location or the nutrients. Let me use the word that your audience will be more familiar with. And that was why in July, like I mentioned last week, the Mediterranean instituted a campaign. Let's do our meeting to be able to find out, what is really the issues. So, is there corruption? I cannot tell you no. Because when you have good oil, every other component is high under there. But until we mean that, it means that we eliminate the waste within the system. And I'm happy when I see these numbers going up. Because what that tells me is that one, in terms of
Pardon me. I'm so sorry. No, pardon me, please. We need to take a break because we have commercials lined up. But immediately after the commercial, we'll come back, finish this conversation, and start taking phone calls. Please hold that thought. I apologize for the interruption. We need to go on a break so we can take this advert. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation on the power sector and how we can really maximize the benefits it's supposed to give to us. We'll be back.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is your pilot speaking. Today we have some special passengers on board. 3 Betano members are going to England to watch Aston Villa live. Congratulations, Emeka, Yemi, Ibrahim.
Play with Betano and stand a chance to win an all-inclusive trip to the UK to watch live the big game of Aston Villa versus Tottenham. Betano, proud partner of Aston Villa. Play responsibly. Available only to those over the age of 18. The promo is valid from November 1st to February 28th, 2025.
Chai, my head oh. Oga landlord, why you dey shake like ceiling fan? My village people don't come again oh. This one with your body hot so, you don't do test? Yes, see result oh. Oga landlord, no be your village people oh. Na malaria, you need Luta. Luta na better medicine wey dey knack down malaria. Oya see am, take am. Thank you Oga Luta. I don't dey kampe.
Luta, brand of Artemata and Lumefantrine, is another quality product from Hovid, marketed by Pharmatex Nigeria Limited. If symptoms persist after 3 days, see your doctor.
Everybody say thanks, Luta. Malaria's in big trouble.
Oga, this your engine don't kaput. After you made me spend money repairing and repairing, see what you are now saying. Oga, don't be my fault now. I sabi work oh. Now your engine no good. Hello, my engine.
Do you know that one way to get your engine working efficiently is by buying good quality petrol? That is why Dangote Refinery has refined its petrol to straight run clean petrol, which is quality petrol you can trust for all your engines. It's time to care about your engine. Buy high quality Dangote petrol.
Hi, Emeka.
Yemi, I learned that Betano is sending 3 football fans to England to watch the big game of Aston Villa versus Tottenham for free. Imagine us going there together. That would be amazing. Okay, bye.
What? He hung up to play.
Play with Betano Betano and stand a chance to win an all-inclusive trip to the UK to watch live the big game of Aston Villa vs Tottenham. Betano, proud partner of Aston Villa. Play responsibly. Available only to those over the age of 18. The promo is valid from November 1st to February 28th, 2025.
Oga, this your engine don't kaput.
After you don't make me repair. See the kind thing we talk.
Oga, don't be my fault now. I sabi work. Now your engine no good. Hello, my engine.
My people, una sabi say one way to make sure say una motor and generator engine them work wella na to dey buy ogbonge quality petrol. That na why Dangote Refinery don't find way to refine their petrol to give us ogbonge quality straight run petrol. This na better quality petrol wey you fit trust o. Time don reach to care for una engine them. Buy better quality Dangote petrol.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is your pilot speaking. Today we have some special passengers on board. 3 Betano members are going to England to watch Aston Villa live. Congratulations, ᴄᴏɪᴜ Ibrahim.
Play with Betano and stand a chance to win an all-inclusive trip to the UK to watch live the big game of Aston Villa vs Tottenham. Betano, proud partner of Aston Villa. Play responsibly. Available only to those over the age of 18. The promo is valid from November 1st to February 28th, 2025.
You're listening to Mainland 98.3 FM. The sound of Lagos.
Things seems anxious and uncertain. I understand the hardship you face. I wish there were other ways, but there is not. If there were,
In our quest to bring to the table issue-based conversation around nationhood and development, we have made 4 to 5:30 p.m. Monday to Friday the perfect time to welcome you into the Situation Room as we continue to build the narrative about public service and accountability.
Mr. President, this Senate needs to know. Mr. President, this Senate needs to lend its voice to the plight of these people. Mr. President, there is nowhere I can say it except here. This is why I'm elected. If I cannot say these things on this floor, sir, I better resign and leave.
As elections give the citizens the chance to make their political decisions, constant demand for quality leadership from those they voted into office.
Look at us, man. There is nothing. We are starving. Tinubu should please do something.
It's also important to having a Nigeria of everyone's dream. Join Tᴏᴇ as it takes to task seasoned analysts, opinion makers, business professionals, and politicians on issues around politics, policies, governance, and leadership every Monday to Friday from 4 to 5:30 p.m. on your super dial. Mainland 98.3 FM will welcome you roommates as we discuss the situations.
Welcome back. Thank you for your patience. It's still Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. It is the Situation Room. And what we're talking about today, or what we have been talking about today, is about the inefficiency within the Nigerian power sector and how it has become the bane of economic development in our dear country, Nigeria. A rather surprising turn of event. A country that is so blessed with resources, a country that has the capacity to generate as much power as it would need, now finds itself unable to take care of its domestic needs to the point where we even start to make revenue from the exportation of our power. We're talking the oil sector, we're talking the electricity sector, we're talking about the secrecy that seems to shroud this sector, the inability of stakeholders to answer the most relevant questions, and the fact that the bulk of this responsibility have been dumped on the shoulders of poor Nigerians who are unable to feed themselves. The increase in tariffs, the need to pay higher amount of money if we want decent quality of service. And all the Nigerian people is saying is they're not even necessarily resisting paying these monies. Yes, there was some sort of resistance at the start, but now the question is around, if you access to pay more, can you promise a commensurate quality of service? If I pay you more, will I have electricity to run my business, to run my day-to-day? If I pay you more, would I be able to buy PMS at the pump at an affordable price? PMS that I would not be afraid would destroy my vehicles, amongst other things. And for that conversation, we've had the privilege of talking to Emmanuel Udofia. He's an author, he's a speaker, he's a course facilitator, he's an industry advisor, he's a petroleum engineering consultant, he's the best-selling author of the book, The Digital Leader, Demystifying Leadership in the Era of Digital Transformation. He's the MD, Sonosys Energy, an energy solution company. And we've been talking. Before we went on that commercial break, we were having a conversation around oil theft, pipeline vandalism, the resources we've put into protecting our oil infrastructure, and how that has played into the many problems that we see bedeviling the power sector. We bring him back online to complete that thought so we can take your opinion on the issue as well. Welcome back, sir. Please, if you'd like to continue talking to us about the place of oil theft in the many problems that we have regarding our energy sustainability in the country.
All right, thanks for having me back. Like I mentioned, concerning the oil theft, like I said, a lot of components just sit under that, which need to be unraveled. Middle of last year, specifically July, the regulator instigated integrity checks on the last unit, that's the least automated custody transfer unit, which you have on each of those stations. With that, you should be able to have a fair idea of what is the throughput that you have. But when it comes to the issue of oil theft, you asked me about whether there's corruption. I think the forensic study should be able to find that out. But one component, because like I told you, there's a steady rise in our production in the last 3-4 months. As we speak, our actual oil production for January was 1.54 million barrels, which against our OPEC quota of 1.5, meaning that if we can demonstrate better over time, we can approach OPEC and see how we can get higher quota to be able to produce more. So that's something good for all of us. And from the studies, what were the components that make that to happen was the better surveillance, better job being done by the security guys. And once you do that, it will even give confidence to investors to be able to inject more funds, because even the oil and gas industry, there's a poor funding challenge. Because for any investor, you want an answer to a simple question. If I put money, can I get it back? To be able to pay even from where I get the money from. So those are the components. And the other issue that we've been talking about, where the average customer or consumer want to ask, am I getting a fair price for what I'm paying? As far as I'm concerned, the government in this case, meaning the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, and the regulator for the down and medium stream, then that's the midstream, and then the PRA, to be able to do more work. Do more work. What are they supposed to do? They are supposed to set what I would call like a ban, a price ban that should take into account the investor's interest and the consumer. Then allow the players to be able to drive their operations, which will come into what I call efficiency. Efficiency being driven by competition. I think when we get there, I will say that we'll be doing fine. Apart from that, I think nothing else, and there's literally any other person can do, because like I said earlier in this program, I completely agree with President Tinubu when he says that he doesn't support price control, because we are controlling price.
So are we still not controlling price? I'm sorry though. Are we still not in a way controlling the price? Is it really up to market forces at the end of the day if they're still dictating prices, so to speak?
No, we are not dictating price, or I'm not advocating for dictating price. What I always said is that let the government, which I just mentioned, the agents of the government, to be able to put a price band, meaning that for a component X, this should be the price. The price should be 5 naira. You understand me? It gives. You can even go to their website and you see they are not actually instructing people that this is what it should be, because for them to come out with that band, they must have look at the components that should influence the price. That now the players now will start with their price levels to be over around that area.
Okay.
And by doing that, what will bring efficiency is competition. It's competition.
All right then. Well, all right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir. We're going to take phone calls now. I hope that some of our callers might want to engage you and ask you questions or ask you to clarify on some of the points that you've made earlier. So for the next 10 minutes, I'd like us to take phone calls, read messages, and also get your comments on some of the feedback that we get. Submission, we do have Emmanuel Udofia on the line. Feel free to ask questions. Hello. Good evening to you. Welcome to the program.
Good evening. It's Kodoko.
All right.
I go to and against it. I want to tell you what is happening now. This band is causing wahala. If that one man for myself, everybody is going to remove the water to come to Koata and Water River.
All right.
Two turbines in the river that can serve Amara. Hello?
All right. Thank you.
Hello,
very much. Hello. Good evening.
Good afternoon. Good evening.
Yes. Nice to have you. Your name, please.
Well, my name is Nɪጵᴜ. We are here. We will go nowhere.
Okay.
I expect it's an expert for you to come on air to tell us that the subsidy that they remove is okay. Nigeria suffer is okay. I disagree with you.
No, he didn't say our suffering is okay. Don't know. He did say that he agrees with the subsidy removal, but sensitization should have happened. That's what he said.
Yes. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The subsidy. What did they do with the subsidy money? What did they do with it? People are suffering every day. But the president, they buy jet, buy all the family, all the colleagues, the government, they are enjoying. If they don't make anything about that, so any person who come on air, they be telling us that the subsidy is okay, then that the person.
All right. Thank you very much for your perspective. You can disagree, of course. You can put forward your perspective. Tell us why you disagree with the perspective of the particular guest. What part do you disagree with? And so we can have conversations around it, right? But let's take more phone calls. Hello.
Hello?
Yes, talk to me.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Ade. I'm calling from Maryland.
All right, welcome.
To me, to your guest, he's not sincere.
Okay.
That's just what I want.
What part? What part? Okay, let's have interactive conversations. Why? What are the aspects you disagree with? Why do you disagree with it? What data can back up your what are you using? What metrics are you using? Let's have a conversation so that we're not just putting statements out there. Okay, let's talk about it so that we can give our guest a chance to actually maybe reevaluate what he has said and provide more basis for why he said some of it. We have 09136000430. Let's take this one. Hello. Sir, can you please tell me your name?
I'm Badamasi from Sᴜɪᴜ.
Welcome.
Yes, you have said so many things that I love to hear. Electricity should look for more efficiency means of doing their thing. When you get a good point of efficiency, rate of efficiency, then prices will go down. When you go to the world now, the world market of oil and gas, there are technologies they are so advanced. Where are we like this? They are not looking forward to efficiency. Efficiency is the answer. Let it be more efficient. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I do appreciate your point of view. Thank you very much. 09136000410. Call us, talk to us. What are your thoughts about the conversation we just had? Hello.
Good evening, Faith.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, my name is Olumide. I'm calling from Alimosho.
All right, welcome.
Yeah, your guest speaker has spoken well. But my own contribution is in the area of damage control. Because if the fuel subsidy was not removed, Dangote would not have come up, or if it came up, it will have failed. Other investors would not have come up. Modular refinery would not have come up. It is better that we face reality once and for all. The government should have faced damage control measures very well in terms of transportation, providing mass transit, in quantum form. Doing a lot in the area of agriculture and so on to ameliorate this tension in the socio-economic life of the people.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for calling. Okay, you believe subsidy should have been removed, but not in secure that connection. But we'll bring him back so he can also have a chance to maybe reiterate some of the things he said, if anything he said might have confused. It is nothing to write home about. Everything is corruption. The power sector, from generation to transmission to distribution, is full of inefficiency, and nobody is holding the operators to account. As for the petroleum sector, that one is the headquarters of corruption. Up until now, nobody has told us what's going on at the Port Harcourt and Warri refinery. Are they working or not? Okay, thank you. Let me read this WhatsApp messages before we double back to our guest. We have Sage, I envy your creative capacity in current affairs. Oh, thank you, that's very nice. Why is the federal government bailing out the discos that are privately owned? Then there's no need for privatization. The same applies to the telcos. The Fed quite lengthy, but let's read it. Hello, Sage and Co. I'm Dr. Prince from Ojualaba, Lagos. Your guest has said a lot already. Electricity and power generation is a heavy industry and complex technology. It requires great funding, technical know-how, and trained manpower. The federal government should develop a blueprint on how to light up the megawatt of electricity. Nigeria has much more, 200 million people, still struggling 5,000 megawatt. It's quite funny. How can our nation develop without power or stable electricity? We pay for much but stay in darkness almost every day. Let the electricity and power industry be handed over to institutions or countries like China, Argentina, Norway, South Korea, Germany, etc. that have what it takes to help to ensure steady power supply. No more politics in this. Prince from Ojualaba, Lagos. All right, thank you very much, Prince. The phone lines are still open, but before we go back to taking your phone calls, sir, a caller had called earlier before we the president did say that the money will be made available to MDAs, for example, subnationals, so that they're able to cater to their specific needs. He feels like the lack of accountability with the money that was gained from subsidy removal makes the removal of the subsidy in its entirety a wrong decision. So, do you think the problem is with the removal of fuel subsidy or the usage of the money that was gained from the removal of fuel subsidy?
All right, thank you, Sage, for giving me the opportunity to be able to defend myself.
Yeah.
Dangote and any other president have been, I don't know the president, but the president have been made position. And that is where people should start asking the subnationals. Because the president said that now the subnationals, they have a lot of more money. Now, what do they use it for? People should ask their local government. They should ask the state governors and all the rest. But in terms of policy, taking out the subsidy, that's the right track. Because it is bringing efficiency into the system. Private individuals, you and I, we could now go and run this petrol cheaper or whatever. That's the right track. That has never been. And it will not be. We should talk about technology into any system. There are three components you get. The first, it brings efficiency because it will definitely lead that process. Two, it will bring a quick turnaround time in decision making. Then three, it will significantly reduce their risk or improve safety. And when you tie these three components, it will bring profitability. And once you can do this very well, efficiently, most of these companies that we are even talking about, it will significantly reduce. You know, when I was talking about the issue of the price of components or products, the Federal Consumer Protection Agency and the regulator, they need to sit down and come up with something in terms of the price ban. They are not actually controlling the price. Now let the players, the media players, drive that process into efficiency through competition. Competition is very important. I was happy about a week ago again about when the Federal Protection Agency had told MTN that they have power over them, and we got to court, and the court came up with something. So those are the ways we need to really work. Allow those institutions to do their work. If they are not there, there will be issues. Definitely there will be issues. But do we need to take away subsidy? Yes. But we need to use, how do we use that money? That's a different conversation.
All right. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate you. I'll read one more message so we can finish the conversation and give room for the next program. Tᴜɪᴛᴇʀ Michael says, hello, Mainland FM. It's unfortunate that most state governors are leaving major projects that are of priority to the people and have only concentrated on elephant projects like the construction of airport, which has less importance to the people as at now. I don't see any reason why governors cannot embark on power generation in order to provide stable power supplies to the people living in the state. If not for any reason, the continuous national grid collapse is enough reason to embark on it, which I believe would also generate huge revenue that will add to the state's internally generated revenue. Please help us appeal to the government to do something that will bring down the cost of cooking gas. The amount is highly ridiculous in a country that is flaring gas away. God bless Nigeria. Tᴜɪᴛᴇ Iιλᴇ from Ijagamo community. Okay, thank you very much for your contribution. Make sense of the conversation around energy use, energy sustainability, eradicating the presumed further to continue to talk about this. Emmanuel Ludofia is an author, a speaker, a course facilitator, and in leadership in the era of digital transformation. He's the MD, Sonisys Energy. It's an energy solution company, and we spent at least 80 minutes talking to him about energy in the country, the inadequacies within that sector, and how it has become the bane of economic development in Nigeria. Thank you so much, sir, and have a great evening.
Thank you for having me.
Well, that's all we have for you today on the Situation Room. Thank you for participating. Thank you for joining us. I know that you disagree on some of the perspectives that we share here or the ones that our guests share here on radio. But like I said, that is the beauty of conversation. It gives us an opportunity to hear varying sides and come up with an informed opinion. It's wonderful when we hear what you have to say, and also when we place it side by side with what our experts have to say regarding this issue. So thank you so very much. Don't forget to join ᴑᴜᴜ Akíọ̀ndé tomorrow as well. Same time, 4 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. Same station, Mainland 98.3 FM. My name is Sage Babalola. Coming up at exactly 5:30 p.m. is 98.3 FM.
Follow us on all our social media platforms on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Mainland 98.3 FM. On Twitter at Mainland FM. We are the sound of Lagos.